Hello and happy Monday. Okay, so I want to talk, Tara, about what the fuck is going on in Haiti. And people listening might not even realize there's anything going on in Haiti because this is just another instance where I feel like we're way ahead of the mainstream media, courtesy of TikTok. But over the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, I've seen all sorts of videos on TikTok of these gangs that are taking over Haiti and even resorting to cannibalism, like literally videos of this on TikTok. And so I just think it's crazy, first of all, that we get censored for talking about chemtrails. Meanwhile, there are videos of gang members doing horrible things I don't even want to say. And that's not taken down. They just put a little this is a sensitive video, caption on it. It's like, what? So you see all these videos, and there's a few reports on the news, but I feel like it's mainly just overshadowed with all the latest drama, around the Trump trials and congressional hearings. But what's happening is there is this revolution taking place in Haiti where gangs have basically taken over, causing an explosion of violence. And they even started a prison on fire and let out thousands of prisoners. And so the unpopular prime minister has now stepped down. And it appears that this gang leader that they call Barbecue has taken over. Have you heard about him, Tara?
Actually, yes, I have. And let's talk about him for a minute because I think his backstory is interesting. But first I want to point out, I was listening to Real AF the other day and Andy and DJ were talking about the whole cannibalism issue. And I guess that clip that's going around TikTok is real, but it's not barbecue. And it's like a 2-year-old clip of someone else. But there is actually cannibalism happening there. But just that particular video is old. So anyway, this guy Barbecue, his real name is Jimmy Sherazier or something like that. Sherazay, something. Anyway, he's a 46-year-old former police officer turned gang member, and he heads up two of the most powerful gang federations in Haiti. And there's controversy as to where he got his nickname. They're saying that when he was a cop, he was working for the Haitian National Police Riot Control Branch. And according to Fox News, he was allegedly responsible for this massacre in 2018 called the La Saline Massacre, where 71 people were killed and 400 homes were burned down. And that's how he got the nickname, because he burned down all these people's homes. But then the Associated Press reported that Barbecue himself says the nickname came from his mom when she was working as a fried chicken street vendor. But regardless of where the nickname came from, this guy clearly has a ruthless side, and he's reportedly responsible for over 1,800 killings and injuries. He was sanctioned by the United States, Canada, and the UN back in 2022. And last week, he told reporters that his goal is to capture Haiti's police chief and government ministers. And before the prime minister, Ariel Henry, stepped down, who, by the way, that guy was not even elected. And he was sworn in with backing of the UN in the United States back in 2021, which is a whole other thing. But before he stepped down, he was out of the country in Puerto Rico trying to get UN support. And Barbecue had said that his goal was to prevent Henry from returning to the country. So obviously he was successful in that. But Barbecue is on a mission, and he has threatened to go after hotel owners who are hiding politicians or collaborating with the former prime minister. And he's demanding that the country's next leader be chosen by the people and that this person must live in Haiti. And he told reporters, quote, "We're not in a peaceful revolution. We are making a bloody revolution in the country because the system is an apartheid system, a wicked system," end quote. And it's definitely a bloody revolution. Like Stephanie, you mentioned releasing thousands of prisoners, and they've also set fire to police stations. They've killed mass numbers of police and civilians. They've attacked the airport. I think 2 of the main airports are shut down. There's been widespread sexual assault, not to mention tons of other crimes. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I've been following this on TikTok, obviously, and there's a lot of interviews out there from Haitian Americans, and they were like, you do not want them coming to America. These people are brutal and like the crimes are horrific. So they're warning about that. But I came across an interview where journalist Rob Reynolds from Al Jazeera interviewed Barbecue. And it's kind of interesting. And someone posted it on TikTok. So, like, you're going to hear some random comments throughout the video. So, just ignore that part. But I want to play it so you can hear, like, his side of things.
His name is Jimmy Chalamet, more commonly known by his childhood nickname, Barbecue. Once a Haitian police officer, he is now the leader of a powerful confederation of gangs called G9, which controls much of Port-au-Prince and its suburbs. With an automatic rifle strapped to his chest, Chalamet took us through the garbage-strewn alleyways of La Saline, a sprawling slum. He urged us to show the world the desperate poverty in which millions of Haitians live out their lives without
every day
sanitation, healthcare, education, or hopes for a better future. Although he is the feared leader of a violent criminal gang, Chalamet appears to be trying to reinvent himself as a leader, a man of the people, battling a corrupt system and the current government led by Prime Minister Ariel Henry, whom Chalamet condemns.
We are fighting for another society, another Haiti that is not only for the 5% of the people who keep all the wealth, but a new Haiti where everyone can have food, clean water, so they can have a decent house to live in. Another Haiti where we don't have to leave the country.
Chalamet also stands accused of masterminding numerous assassinations and massacres.
wrong.
One in 2018 that killed up to 25 people. He denies all the
They
allegations.
framed him for that.
I'm not a gangster. I never will be a gangster. It's the system I'm fighting against today.
Let's go.
The system has a lot of money. They own the media. Now they try to make me look like a gangster.
Chalamet condemned the
Listen.
kidnapping of 17 U.S. and Canadian missionaries who were being held for ransom by a rival gang.
We condemn all kidnappings that happen in this country. The special one is the missionaries. They're Americans. When we talk about missionaries, they came to this country to help us. Today, we cannot support any gangs who kidnap people.
A severe fuel shortage has practically shut down Haiti's capital, the result of gangs hijacking fuel trucks and blockading depots. Chalamet says he can get the petrol flowing again, but says Haiti's prime minister must go.
If Ariel Henry resigns at 8 o'clock, then at 8:05 we will remove all the barricades so that the trucks can come to the fuel depot and fill up, and then the crisis will stop.
Chalamet says he wants to tear up Haiti's political and oligarchic system by its roots.
This system is criminal. The revolution we're preaching today, we cannot do this without guns, because we have our own guns. This gun is a symbol of our revolution. The revolution against the 5% of those who hold all the wealth of our nation.
As he walked the streets of La Saline, Barbecue was greeted warmly by many. Does this gang leader have ambitions to one day rule Haiti? He certainly talks like a politician, comparing himself to one of Haiti's most revered leaders in its struggle for independence from France in the 18th century.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines was a great man, the father of the nation who fought hard to free Haiti. Today, I am doing the same fighting as Dessalines did. I am following his dream. The dream of Dessalines was to see the wealth of his country be shared equally.
Let's go.
Would-be revolutionary leader of men in arms, the man they call Barbecue, is one of the most powerful and enigmatic figures in Haiti today.
Okay, so I wanted to play that because, you know, like the media is saying, oh, it's like Barbecue, this cannibal that's like ravaging the streets. And it is sad, like watching the video. I mean, he does show you like how these people are living, and they're in these little like shacks with no plumbing, just a little bucket like in the corner, no electricity, no nothing. But the other thing that's weird is when you see this guy, there's all these videos and photos of him wearing this like big, huge necklace with a Freemason symbol on it. So what do you think that's all about, Tara? Like I saw that and I was like, it just makes me question everything, just knowing the background of all that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder if he knows what it is. I guess he must,
Yeah,
right? Who knows?
maybe. I don't know.
But that clip you played was from Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
And that's not what mainstream media in the United States is reporting at all. And
Mhm.
speaking of Al Jazeera, I was reading an article where they were talking about how these gangs are currently controlling like 95% of Port-au-Prince, which is the capital in Haiti. And, they took control of the roads, all the vital areas in the country, weren't able to get any supplies in. I guess UNICEF tried to get containers of essentials into the country, and they were looted by gangs at the airport. Hospitals don't have necessary equipment. As the video talked about, there's a shortage of fuel, electricity, drinking water. Stores are almost empty, and the country is at risk of famine. And I read in DW that 6 out of 10 hospital facilities in the country are completely non-functional. Last week, the United States, Germany, and EU embassies in Haiti had to evacuate personnel, which was a total shit show process. And now we have a Marine Corps terrorist unit deployed at the embassy. But I want to talk about what the United States is doing, or more accurately, not doing. So on Saturday, the US State Department announced that they're going to be arranging limited charter flights for Americans with valid passports who are trying to leave the country. And I guess you have to fill out an online form to request your trip. And okay, I guess passports and legal forms are important now, only for actual American citizens, clearly not for illegal migrants. And it sounds like, if you're an American and you want to flee, you would probably do better pretending to be an illegal and just walk right over the border. But anyway, despite chartering these flights, the US is only going to do that from the Cape Haitian airport up north, which is apparently less chaotic than what's going on in the capital right now. But it's also 130 miles away. And the State Department is telling people, if you're going to travel, you're doing it at your own risk, and only consider it if you think you can get to the airport safely. Now, on the other hand, I was reading in the Washington Examiner, there's a nonprofit group called Project Dynamo, and they're going to start carrying out rescue missions of Americans in Haiti. And this is a group made up of former US military and intelligence officers. And guess when this group came about, Stephanie? Back in 2021, after Biden completely fucked up the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So this group came together to rescue the Americans that Biden left behind.
I was going to say, this sounds a lot like Afghanistan, where they're like, you're on your own. We'll just let veterans like privately charter their own planes and get the people out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And so this group, apparently, aside from Afghanistan, they've carried out rescue operations in Ukraine, Russia, Sudan, Israel, Gaza, and even in Maui during the wildfires. So State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said that the U.S. is, quote, not actively planning for any evacuation effort, end quote. And he couldn't even say how many Americans are currently in Haiti. And he could only comment that there are, quote, several hundred Americans who have registered to receive more information when we can provide it to them, end quote. So our own government won't carry out widespread evacuations, but a nonprofit group will. And I also want to point out that Rep. Corey Mills from Florida, he arranged an evacuation of 10 Americans from Haiti last week. And this isn't the first time that he's carried out rescue missions either, when our own government won't. So he told reporters, quote, Joe Biden has a history of abandoning American citizens from the botched Afghanistan withdrawal to Israel and now Haiti. He has failed to uphold his oath to protect American citizens, both at home and abroad. If Joe Biden and his failed administration won't do their jobs, I will continue to do it for them, end quote.
Well, thank God for this group. And I mean, you're right. Like, they're probably better off saying they're illegal, because then Biden wants to help them, give them money, give them planes, give them everything they need. But, this is what he does to American citizens. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's insane. And so are things getting better? A little bit. I guess the police in Haiti made some progress on Saturday. They seized a bunch of firearms and cleared roadblocks, and they're trying to regain control of the main port, which has been shut down since March 7th because of all this violence. But I guess things calmed down a little bit after the prime minister resigned. but that little bit doesn't really mean much. It's like still a completely chaotic and violent shit show there. And I'll be honest, like I never paid much attention to anything happening in Haiti until this past week.
Same
But
here.
yeah, but I guess they have a history, a very long history of violent uprisings. The country has been completely unstable with unchecked violence and extreme poverty since the president was assassinated back in 2021, President Moise. And anyway, the Daily Caller, I read an article that said gang violence like skyrocketed between 2022 and 2023. It grew 122%. There was a poll that was taken last August showing that 63% of Haitians wanted help from the international community to send specialized armed forces to Haiti to stop the gangs, and 75% of them said that police need support from other countries to reestablish order. And apparently Kenya was going to step in to deploy forces to Haiti and lead this like multinational security mission. But then in January of this year, a Kenyan court ruled that deploying forces in Haiti would be illegal and invalid. And then this past Tuesday, Kenyan officials said they wouldn't deploy any troops to Haiti until a new government's in place. And even with backing from the US, it would be 45 to 60 days before they would actually even be able to deploy any police. And there's no base location for their deployment because gangs have seized control of all the major power centers in the city's capital. So it's complete like chaos and violence off the charts. And now here's the thing. Maybe you're thinking like, what does this have to do with me, right? In 2023 alone, over 70,000 Haitians crossed the US border. And now there's this mass exodus of people fleeing the country. So you know that we are going to have a huge influx of Haitians coming to the United States.
Yeah, and I want to get into that because a lot of them come to Florida where I live. But I want to bring up a couple things. So that interview clip that I played of barbecue, right? And he was talking about his gun and how like important that is. So this is this is why we have the Second Amendment, and this is why our government wants to take it away and take away everyone's guns because they're afraid of a revolution like what's happening in Haiti. And I see people a lot on like, TikTok and like social media saying like, when are we going to revolt? When are we going to, do something about this government? And I think that they fail to realize like this is what happens. Like you could have an intention to overthrow like a corrupt government, but desperate people do desperate things, and you get people that like go crazy because they're hungry and they don't have any resources, and mass violence breaks out. And like that's what's happening in Haiti. So it's like I think sometimes people like forget the craziness that comes along with it when they say things like that here in America, because I don't know that we would be able to get through it like these Haitians that have no clean water, no food, no anything. And so hundreds of thousands of Haitians are displaced at this point. And like you said, a lot of them are probably going to be coming here to Florida. Florida is now bracing for it. You had Rebecca Zimmerman, who's a top defense official, that told the House Armed Services Committee that federal officials are anticipating possible maritime migration. And so Governor DeSantis directed Florida's Division of Emergency Management, the Florida National Guard, and state law enforcement to send 250 more soldiers to the southern coast, along with more than a dozen air and sea craft vessels, which, funny enough, Biden will not give any more sea craft. And DeSantis has been all over the news saying how the Coast Guard is a really valuable tool, especially when it comes to Haitians, because they come by boat. And Biden isn't wanting to give resources at this point. So anyhow, DeSantis released a statement saying, quote, illegal immigrants feel empowered to enter the sovereign territory of the United States because of the federal government's refusal to diligently enforce our immigration laws and protect the integrity of the border. When the state faces the possibility of invasion, it has the right and duty to defend its territory and people, end quote. I agree. And Ronnie is back, and I'm so happy about it. So he also signed 3 bills to try and combat illegal immigration. So the first is increased penalties for driving without a license. The second is increased penalties for illegals who commit a crime that were previously deported and then came back in illegally. And then the third prevents counties and municipalities from accepting ID that was given to illegals from other jurisdictions. And I'm so glad I live in this state where someone actually is trying. But I caught a clip from Steve Bannon's War Room where he said, or I'm sorry, he had a senior national security fellow, Todd Bensman. And this guy said that intelligence sources said that the U.S. Coast Guard has been ordered to follow illegal Haitian migrants to the southern coast, but then to allow them to enter our country. And I mean, this doesn't surprise me at all. Like the Biden administration has let like 20 million illegals in our country at this point. So why would they not let a few thousand more? But it pisses me off nonetheless.
Yeah, and keep in mind that's like these aren't just refugees seeking asylum. Like thousands of Haitian criminals were freed from prisons by these gang members. And you can bet that they are headed straight for our wide open borders. And Biden has already given Haiti $680 million in aid to try to tackle organized crime. And clearly that didn't do anything because the country is now being run by gangs. And on top of that, Biden's pledging to spend another $300 million to back Kenya if they do end up deploying troops to restore law and order. So
Yeah.
this is not just like people fleeing and looking for somewhere to go. There's fucking criminals and mass terrorists.
And I want to point out that there is bipartisan support on this. Like here in Florida, Democrats who are Haitian American Democrats are like, this is posing a huge security risk to our country because they know they have firsthand experience of what these gangs are capable of. And they're like, we don't want them here. So there's all of this going on, and you can only imagine where my conspiracy ass went. I went deep down the rabbit hole. So now we're going to get into Stephanie's fun conspiracy theories. So, okay, we were just talking in recent episodes about how our CIA infiltrates other countries and like interferes with the government and elections. So there's like that background to keep in mind. But the other thing that kept nagging at me with this story was the Clintons, because I distinctly remember how much of a tie they had to Haiti after the earthquake. So I started looking into it and I found a clip from 2016 of a Haitian journalist explaining to Trump about the Clinton corruption in Haiti. So here's another clip courtesy of TikTok.
2010, the earthquake of Haiti, not only American taxpayers, but the whole world has given billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for the Haitians. Not even 2% of that money went back to Haiti. So, Mr. Trump, we are asking you, begging you, the Haitian community will side with you if one day you ask Hillary Clinton publicly to disclose the audit of all the money they have stolen from Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it. I think there might have been a couple other comments. So did you hear all that, Tara? I don't know if the
Yeah,
audio
up
came
until the
through.
last, there was like 5 seconds of silence.
Okay, that was just them like all applauding. So Trump did exactly what the journalist asked and brought it up during the third and final presidential debate. He looked at Hillary Clinton and said, quote, "I was at Little Haiti the other day in Florida, and I want to tell you, they hate the Clintons because what happened in Haiti with the Clinton Foundation is a disgrace." I wish I could do a Trump impersonation. I can't, so I'm not even going to try. So Hillary responded that she was proud of the work she did in Haiti. So let's talk about it. What did she do in Haiti? Well, I'm going to tell you. In 2010, She was Secretary of State, and her husband, Bill Clinton, was UN Special Envoy to Haiti when the 2010 earthquake hit, killing 220,000 people. So I found a BBC article from 2016 that said that $13.3 billion was pledged by international donors to Haiti's recovery. So now it starts to make sense as to why Clintons had their hands all over this disaster. So then Bill Clinton was appointed to be the co-chairman of the interim Haiti recovery mission alongside the prime minister at the time, Jean-Max Bellerive. And they found themselves under intense scrutiny when recovery efforts were taking way too long and just frankly not happening. And so this article said that only 9% of the money actually went to the Haitian government and people. And the rest went to, guess where? The UN, which Bill Clinton worked. And it also went to international aid groups like the Clinton Foundation and private contractors, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And then the donor countries like own military. So the US Government Accountability Office ended up investigating this, and they concluded that there was no wrongdoing, but that this commission was just not aligned with the Haitian priorities. So do you see what happened here? It's like the Clintons were in charge of $13 billion that was supposed to go to Haiti's recovery. When it didn't, they were investigated by the US government, which Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State of. Like, that it's just it's like that's like asking you to go investigate your boss and then hand the report over to your boss.
Yeah.
Like obviously they aren't going to reveal their own corruption. And Republicans even sued over this like whole pay to play scheme. And then WikiLeaks happened with Julian Assange, where he released all this stuff, all the Hillary Clinton emails. And according to the BBC article, private contractors were eager to sell services in what one US envoy described in a WikiLeaks disclosed diplomatic cable as a gold rush. And then in email exchanges with top Clinton Foundation officials, a senior aide to Hillary Clinton, again, who was then Secretary of State, kept an eye out for those identified by the abbreviations FOB, Friends of Bill Clinton, or WJC VIPs, William Jefferson Clinton VIPs. Quote, need you to flag when people are friends of WJC, end quote. That's what Caitlin Cleverick, a senior State Department official who was vetting the incoming offers of assistance that was coming through the Clinton Foundation. She wanted to flag all the friends of the Clintons. So that's where the money went. Like, it's pretty black and white, right? Like there's not much of a mystery here. So I'm sure that the Clintons probably skimmed off the top if their friends are getting all this billions of dollars. But Tara, like, doesn't it make you just so mad that this shit happens? There is a paper trail of it. It's so obvious, but of course they get away with it. And by the way, you want to know who did go to prison? Julian Assange, the guy who released WikiLeaks and all of this information. He's the one in jail. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is out scamming people once again. I mean, it's like, I hear this stuff and I get so angry and I feel like, what is the point? Like, these people always freaking get away with it. They are criminals. But like, knowing all of this background, now I could see why Haiti is in shambles. Number one, like they never did recover or get any of that money. And why the people are so pissed to the point that they are revolting. It's been nothing but corruption there. And Tara, like, I'm going to go a little crazy conspiracy for just a quick second, but remember our chemtrail episode where like we uncovered that they have these weather engineering techniques to create national disasters or natural disasters, I should say. And, we were like, well, why would anybody do that? Like, why would that benefit, Well, here's how. I didn't realize how profitable a natural disaster is because all these politicians have their buddies swoop in for recovery efforts and they get the money and the billions of dollars budgeted for recovery. Like, this seems like a whole operation and scheme. That's, of course, a conspiracy.
In air quotes. Yeah, but the United States, like when I was doing my research, it was crazy because I didn't realize that the US has such a long history of like corruption related to Haiti. And we've been occupying Haiti on and off since the early 1900s. We've been basically choosing the Haitian leaders for years, even knowing about their brutal treatment of the people of the country. But what are we doing? We're choosing people in the best interest of our own corrupt government. And like you mentioned, when we talked about CIA election interference a couple weeks ago, we've aided and supported several corrupt Haitian leaders. In particular, there's the Duvalier family. First, it was the father, and then his son. And back in the 1960s, we gave them over $900 million, despite knowing that they had both faced accusations of murder and torture. And then Bill Clinton sent 20,000 troops there to restore the president back in 1991 when the government was overthrown by their own military. So we've clearly done a lot of corrupt shit in Haiti.
So you mean the country that's always talking about a threat to democracy doesn't allow a democracy to happen in other countries? That's interesting. I have some
Weird.
clips. Let me see if I can find them real quick. So this is just off the cuff. I'm going to pull up TikTok real quick because I know I saved them. But I came across these clips from like the 70s. And this interviewer was interviewing John Stockwell, who was an ex-CIA agent. And I'm just going to play them because I think it's relevant because his whole job was to go and interfere in other countries and sway elections and the opinion. I've got two clips. I don't know which one comes first or second. Bear with me. This is like all off the cuff, but I think it's relevant.
Sean, you were in Vietnam for the CIA, and as I understand, you were up country. What years were you there?
73 to 75, right after the troop evacuation, and I came out in the evacuation of April of 75.
How long were you with the CIA?
13 years. I was a field case officer, served in Africa and Vietnam, and then eventually on a subcommittee of the National Security Council in Washington.
You were in Angola, were you not?
Well, I ran the Angolan covert action, but I ran it from Washington. These things are global, and as chief of the Angola task force, my office was in Washington.
When did you leave the CIA?
March 1977, I left to testify to the Senate and go public and try to write a book, which I did.
I'll get into that a little later. I'd like to talk to you about what kind of experiences one has when one leaves the CIA and begins to talk. It must be very, very interesting. Let's talk about the function of the CIA. I think a lot of us have an impression that all the CIA does is gather intelligence. Intelligence is information, of course. Now, one would think that if you obtained information that was based upon fact, and if that is so, what did you do with it?
Well, one of the four principal functions of the CIA is to gather intelligence and ideally forward it to the president, the users of information, policymakers, as we say. There are other functions, however, some of them more legitimate than others. One is to run secret wars, the covert action that's written and talked about so much, like what's happening in Nicaragua today from Honduras. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories.
Did you buy his confidence with true stories?
You buy his confidence and set him up. We've seen this happen recently with Jack Anderson, for example, who has his intelligence sources, and he has also admitted that he's been set up by him. Every fifth story just simply being false. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do. So you don't have to set them up sort of, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the church committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA, including some of the biggest names in the business, to consciously introduce the stories into the press.
Well, give me a concrete example of how you use the press this way, how a false story is planted and how you got it published.
Well, for example, in my war, the Angola war that I helped to manage, 1/3 of my staff was propaganda. Ironically, it's called covert action inside the CIA. Outside, that means the violent part. Propagandists all over the world, principally in London, Kinshasa, and Zambia. We would take stories which we would write and put them in the Zambia Times, and then pull them out and send them to a journalist on our payroll in Europe. But his cover story, you see, would be that he'd gotten them from his stringer in Lusaka, who had gotten them from the Zambia Times. We had the complicity of the government of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, if you will, to put these false stories into his newspapers. But after that point, the journalists, Reuters, and AFP, the management was not witting of it. Now, our contact man in Europe was. And we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. In one case, we had the Cuban rapists caught and tried by the Ovimbundu maidens who had been their victims. And then we ran photographs that made almost every newspaper in the country of the Cubans being executed by the Ovimbundu women who supposedly had been their victims.
These were fake photos?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, false propaganda to
Okay, so there you have an ex-CIA agent that was in 1983 explaining how they do this. So it really makes you question everything the media is talking about with Haiti, Israel, with Gaza, with everything. Like everything, what can we trust,
Right.
So anyhow, I want to get into the Haiti rabbit hole, and this one runs deep, okay? So a whole other conspiracy came up, which is that the Clinton Foundation in Haiti was basically a front to traffic the children there. And this one involves Chris Cornell, lead singer of Soundgarden, one of the best bands ever, and Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. And they paired up and uncovered some things when Cornell's charity saw how aid that was supposed to help children get into foster homes was actually helping these children to be sex trafficked. And again, WikiLeaks showed all kinds of things in the Clinton emails that would align with these allegations. Anyhow, Cornell and Bennington started creating a documentary together called The Silent Children, and it was all about this child exploitation. But while making this documentary, they both allegedly committed suicide just weeks apart from one another from hanging themselves from a doorknob. Kind of has the Fall of Cabal signature on it, if you ask me. And Tara, this is going to be interesting for you. Your ex-boyfriend, Paul Walker, is tied into this conspiracy. So he started a charity called Reach Out Worldwide to help with the Haiti recovery. And he died shortly after in that car accident. However, if you saw the video, it looked more like an explosion. And it's weird because they found out that the car was leaking fluid. And so conspiracy theorists say that just like Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, Paul Walker's charity uncovered what was happening to the children in Haiti and the Clinton Foundation. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking Clinton kill list. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So crazy. So I found an AP article from 2017 that said, quote, in 2007, a group of Haitian children identified 134 I never say this right. Sri Lankan. Am I saying
Sri
that right?
Lankan.
Sri Lankan
This one I can
peacekeepers.
actually pronounce, Sri Lankan.
Yeah, you can pronounce the hard stuff. I can't do that. So anyhow, they identified 134 Sri Lankan peacekeepers in a child sex ring that went on for 3 years. And the Sri Lankan military repatriated 114 of the peacekeepers, and they were never jailed. In fact, Sri Lanka had never prosecuted a single soldier for sexual assault or sexual misconduct while serving in a peacekeeping mission abroad. So an AP investigation found that in the last 12 years, at the time of the writing of this article, up to March, an estimated 2,000 allegations of sexual abuse and exploitation have been leveled at UN peacekeepers and personnel. So remember what I said about who got the majority of the $13 billion in Haiti relief? The UN. Who was
Yep.
in charge of this? The Clintons. Who was on Epstein's flight log a bunch of times? Bill Clinton. Like, I'm sorry, but there's just too many dots to connect here for all of this to just be a big coincidence or conspiracy. And again, I feel like it's so obvious and it's so in our face, but they don't care because they get away with it.
Yeah, and if you guys think that the UN is like an agency for good, think again and then go watch the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal, because it's fucking frightening how much evil shit this agency has either orchestrated or been complicit in. And that Al Jazeera article that I referenced earlier was talking about how after the president was overthrown again in 2004, the UN stepped in and they replaced the president with the MINUSTAH, MINUSTAH. And I guess that's the United Nations Stabilization Mission in Haiti. And this was from 2004 to 2017. And Stephanie, I think this is what you were talking about, because their whole purpose was to enhance security. But instead, they were committing rape and crazy sexual abuse, not just with women, but also with young male and female children. And then there was also a massive cholera outbreak that killed more than 9,300 people. And this was all traced back to a sewage leak from the UN facility in Haiti. And we know that the UN is part of the global agenda for the one world government. So, like I said earlier, if you think what's happening in Haiti isn't important to you, or that this could never happen in America, like, think again. You know, thousands and thousands of Haitians have already crossed into our wide open borders, not to mention the millions of migrants from other third world countries, and likely thousands, if not millions, of criminals and terrorists. And it's very clear that our government is complicit in continuing to bring more criminals into the country. And we're in this very precarious situation because, like we talked about with Tim Enlow on our border episode last Wednesday, the people that are coming here aren't vested in America. They're not trying to become Americans. They are just trying to escape where they came from, and they don't give a fuck about our country. So I haven't played a clip from Real AF in a while, but I want to play this short clip from an episode last week. And this is where Andy and DJ were discussing Haiti and talking about how that's relevant to what's happening in the United States.
So long. I mean, dude, look, this is if you want a good idea of the, and this is really hard to believe for people, because like they right now we're still pretty good, right? But if you want a good idea of the direction of where the United States is headed, this is an extreme example of that direction. Yeah. Where a small amount of people who are very corrupt and very, very greedy will control every single aspect of the lives of the people of this country, and everybody else will be third world poor. And they have this idea that sounds really good to people. They try to sell it to them. Oh, you won't have to work anymore. Those people don't have to work either. How's their lives look? Right. This is what you'll get when you buy their shit and buy their messaging and start to believe what they're telling you. This is what we end up with. We end up with an uncivilized society of chaos where a very small amount of people own all the wealth and everybody else is dirt poor. And that's what they're trying to do. When you look at Biden's plan for 2025, they're just trying to accelerate that globalist agenda, the 2030 agenda of you will own nothing and you'll be happy. They mean that. And yeah, the people who have nothing are like, well, I don't own anything now. So fuck yeah, take their shit too. And they think that's a good thing, except it will bring the quality of life down so far that you guys, the people who have nothing here are still wealthy compared to people of all different places across the world. And they've lost that perspective. So, and they sell it. What the funny thing is, they sell it to them like it sounds like such a great thing. Mm-hmm. I'll never have to work. You know, I'll never have to do anything. I'll get. They think like, oh, I'll get my Uber Eats, bro. There ain't gonna be no fucking Uber Eats. There ain't gonna be no restaurants. No DoorDash. Yeah, like you don't people just don't understand how far this is gonna go if they remain in power. And they totally plan to third worldize all of these countries that are part of the globalist agenda, basically part of NATO, and then create a one world government of very powerful elites who control every single resource in the world. Yeah.
Okay, again, everything is related. And you have to consider when you look at how much the United States has been involved in all of these foreign countries, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for all of it. And this shit is not that far off from what could happen in America. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, look at all
Especially
these millions of people that have come in.
Yep.
Chaos could break out at any moment, moment. And what are we going to do about it? And it's, it's really scary. And it's like the UN, whenever they get their hands on something, there's disaster. Like my whole life, I thought, oh, they're here to help people. No, they're not. Even remember Angelina Jolie, and she was like a UN ambassador, and she was like, I'm going to give like 50% of my income. I saw an interview with her recently, and she was like, nothing is what it seems. And she was like, even the UN, same thing. Like, you think that they're out there helping people, but there's corruption. So like, don't trust the UN. People are reporting they're seeing UN trucks here by like the border. Don't trust them. Don't do what they say. Scary. But yeah, this was an interesting rabbit hole, and I feel like it kind of ties everything into a big bow of like the World Economic Forum and United Nations global agenda 2025, 2030, like all the 15-minute cities. Now we kind of see like they've been planning this for decades, and it's all coming to a head now. Allegedly.
Yep. Allegedly.
All right. Well, there's a conspiracy to kick off your week, and we'll be back here on Wednesday. So everyone have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.